First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Welcome to First at 5. I'm Tatyana White.
And I'm Sarah Hauer. We are in the middle of a string of stormy days across north central Florida. The UF weather radar is lighting up again with today's round of scattered storms with gusty winds and heavy rains. Let's get over to UF weather forecaster Kade Sowers with your weather forecast.
As you can see, that rain's going to cause some flash flooding, but luckily it's on the lower spectrum of our little counter here, and green's not likely that it'll be too much trouble. And looking here at our Century Tower camera at the University of Florida, it's 74 right now and it feels like 70, so maybe that rain's brought in a little bit of cooler temperatures. But for the rest of Florida, it looks like it's another hot day, 85 in Ocala, 84 in the Villages. And looking at our hour by hour, there's scattered thunderstorms throughout the rest of the night, but that's going to calm down a little toward 11 p.m. And now looking at the coming up, rain's going to continue, flash flooding is going to be possible, and we're going to look at our Olympic forecast in Paris.
About an hour and a half away from Gainesville and Tampa, police are investigating following a fatal vehicle versus pedestrian crash involving a toddler. It happened on Pitch Pine Circle. Police responded to a report of a toddler who was struck by a vehicle. The child had been riding his bicycle with his siblings when authorities say a Toyota SUV turned a corner and struck the child. The 3-year-old was pronounced dead on the scene. At this time, no criminal charges are pending and the investigation is underway.
An investigation by the Department of Justice at Federal Correctional Complex Coleman in Sumter County has led to the arrest of more than a dozen people. That includes both inmates and corrections officers. Michelle Meredith reports.
What's been going on at the Coleman Federal Prison in Sumter County? Well, apparently, a lot.
Federal prisons need to be safe and secure spaces for everybody. And there's times where that's not the case.
With over 6,000 inmates, the largest federal prison in the entire nation, the Department of Justice launched a massive investigation to see what kind of criminal activities might be happening behind the walls and barbed wire. And when it was all over, it led to the arrest of over a dozen people, inmates and corrections officers as well. According to the Department of Justice, one corrections officer was allegedly having sex with an inmate for over a year. She, the corrections officer, even offered to send the inmate's family money, all recorded in a phone call. Another corrections officer agreed to smuggle 70 grams of meth to an inmate. He got busted. Didn't know he was playing let's make a deal with an undercover agent. And that's just the corrections officers. Inmate arrest includes murder. One accused of strangling his cellmate to death using a torn bedsheet. Another allegedly stabbing his cellmate using a 6.5-inch bladed weapon. What sparked the investigation into Coleman? And how is this all happening? Government officials wouldn't elaborate other than to say they were being proactive.
The Federal Bureau of Prisons, we embrace the oversight. Like I said, the vast majority of our employees are hardworking, dedicated individuals and do not want to tolerate misconduct by anyone.
And says the Department of Justice, the agency and its partners will be proactively looking to make more arrests at the federal prison.
And eviction rates have exceeded pre-pandemic levels in major cities across the nation, with Gainesville being one of them. This comes from factors such as surging rental rates and the expiration of COVID-era protections. Experts blamed increased eviction filings on rising rent costs. Records show Gainesville eviction rates exceeded pre-pandemic levels by 46%. Ann Ray is the Florida Housing Data Clearing House Manager at the University of Florida Schimberg Center for Housing Studies, and she says there's a gap between what people can afford to pay and what rents actually cost.
In some parts of the state, as much as 20 or 30% in 21, 22, a little bit less than that in Alachua County. So people are having more difficulty paying their rent, and they're having that difficulty without the kind of supports that were available a couple of years ago.
Experts say the vast amount of evictions are rent-related issues. A report from Apartment List shows that nationwide rent is 21% more expensive as compared to March 2020.
New changes are in store at the end of the month for Florida driver's license, all for better protection. The state is changing how it assigns driver's license numbers. Starting July 31st, the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles will pick random numbers to put in a new driver's license number to protect your identity. A new Florida law is behind the change, so there is less chance someone uses your birthday and other personal information.
And we have the latest update in presidential politics.
That's coming up when First at 5 returns. Stay with us.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
With just over 100 days before the presidential election, Democratic frontrunner Vice President Harris got a ringing endorsement this morning, while Republican nominee former President Trump greets Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in Florida.
This comes just one day after the Prime Minister met with President Biden and Vice President Harris amid a push to get a ceasefire in the war in Gaza. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Vice President Kamala Harris closing out the first week of her presidential campaign.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
With a critical endorsement from former President and Mrs. Obama.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Mr. Obama promising to mobilize Democrats who he called the underdogs. New polling shows a tightening race with Vice President Harris running 1 point behind former President Trump among likely voters within the margin of error for that poll. The same poll showed Mr. Trump with a 6-point lead over President Biden after that race-shifting debate. The vice president now urging former President Trump to debate her.
I think the voters deserve to see the split screen that exists in this race on a debate stage, and so I'm ready. Let's go.
The Trump campaign saying it would be inappropriate to schedule a debate until Ms. Harris is formally nominated. Mr. Trump today hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who met yesterday with the Vice President and President Biden. The former president pledging his support to Israel and issuing a dark warning.
If we win, it'll be very simple. It's all going to work out and very quickly. If we don't, you're going to end up with major wars in the Middle East and maybe a third world war.
Former President Trump speaking tonight at the conservative Turning Point Action Conference in Florida as the Harris campaign looks to its next turning point, saying the vetting process has begun in earnest to choose her vice presidential running mate. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Strong storms are rumbling through north central Florida this evening with heavy rains and gusty winds. I'll track these storms through our weekend ahead coming up.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome back to weather. We're going to be looking at the forecast from Paris, France for the Olympics coming up. It's going to be a cool day tomorrow. It's going to be little chances of rain in the morning, but that'll fall off in the afternoon, hopefully just in time for some outdoor events. And as you can see, the chance of rain right here over Paris is going to blow out of the way Saturday, and by Sunday it's going to be pretty clear, blowing all that rain into Germany. But as we look over into the US of A, you've got moisture coming in from the south over here. It's going to cause a lot of rainfall in the southern part of the nation, which is going to put us at risk for some flash flooding. But don't worry, there's right here at our counter, you can see it's a little bit of a lower possibility of some flash flooding in the green area and just a little bit higher chance in the yellow. Looking here closer in Florida, north central Florida, you can see there's some showers and storms happening in the Alachua County area in Gainesville and over here in the Villages as well. But looking ahead to tonight, that rain's going to clear out just in time for tonight, but it's going to be back around here in the morning. Looking here at the Century Tower camera over the University of Florida, there's some cloud cover and a little bit of rain on the way. It's currently 75, but it feels like 72, so that's blown in a little bit of cooler weather. But as you can see here in the rest of Florida, it's still a hot summer day. 85 in Ocala, 82 in the Villages. And as you can see again, the flash flood risk, it's going to have some scattered showers with 2 inches per rain per hour. And as we move ahead, you can see all that rain is going to be blowing out of the area as we go into Sunday morning, but then Sunday afternoon we're going to have more rain this weekend. looking to tomorrow, it's a warmer start, 75, and there's a few storms at noon, but then those storms are going to pick up around 4 p.m. And looking at our 7-day outlook, it's a 90% chance of rain Saturday and Sunday, and that's going to go up in Monday through Thursday with a 60% chance of rain.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome to sports. I'm Derek Wingo. Florida football begins their fall camp starting next Tuesday. Lots of eyes are down in Gainesville as there has been a huge culture change and many leaders stepping up to the plate to lead for this 2024 season. Gators quarterback Graham Mertz says,
"This team we got right now, they're passionate, they care about each other, they want to win, and they're fully bought into not only just the scheme, but also Coach Napier's vision for what this team should be."
The Gators will start their season off August 31st against Miami, at home looking to shock the world with Billy Napier going into his 3rd season as head coach. Last year, the Gators finished 5-7 without a bowl game. With a full list of Florida's 12 games, there will be 7 at home, 2 that will be still in the state of Florida, and only 3 games where they'll have to travel out of state. Some key games this season will be the home opener versus Miami, August 31st, away at Tennessee, away at Texas, and home versus LSU and Ole Miss.
Before we go, let's get one more check on the weather, Kade.
Looking at the 7-day outlook in Gainesville, it's a hot week ahead in the 90s and a rainy one too, with 60% chance of rain all through Monday through Thursday. But that rain's going to calm down around Friday with a 20% chance of rain.
And a Texas woman is celebrating her 115th trip around the sun. Elizabeth Francis of Houston is the oldest person in the United States after turning 115 Thursday. Francis was born in 1909 in St. Mary Parish, Louisiana. Throughout her life, she experienced many historic moments, including both world wars, the introduction of color television, and the first moon landing.
Thanks for joining us. We're back here Monday for another edition of First to 5.
But your North Central Florida news is always on at WUFT.org and on all our social media platforms.